Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Today, we are going to talk about preparing for a divorce. If you find this content interesting or useful, please feel free to subscribe and tap that notification bell. Get all the notifications for this channel. In the past, I had not been doing that at the beginning of the video, but I found that a large number of people who use the content here don't wind up subscribing, and that kind of hurts my channel and it hurts my opportunity to obtain revenue from my channel. So I would really appreciate it if you do have the opportunity and you enjoy the content I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe, hit that like button, and tap the notification bell. With that said, let's talk a little bit about preparing for divorce. And to do that, let's talk first of all about the emotions that go into a divorce. It is a fairly rare divorce where there is not a great deal of acrimony between husband and wife. That's because when you have been in love with someone, particularly when you've had children with someone, there is a lot of history there and there is a lot of emotion. I'm speaking from personal experience. When I went through a divorce, I think for a good 6 months, it made me crazy. And not in a clinical sense, perhaps, but certainly it was depressing and it was almost all-consuming. As a result of that, you just don't tend to think clearly. And if you don't think clearly, it can really hamstring you when you get into a divorce court. Now, before I get to this next part, which you're going to immediately think I've lost my bloody mind, I want to tell you that being a divorce lawyer is something I've never wanted to be. And when it comes to getting tips from anyone about divorce itself and the legal tactics and techniques and that sort of thing, talk to your divorce lawyer. Because the law is different in every state, and I can't really offer you anything there that would be of help. What I can offer you, however, is a reason why I would never want to do a divorce. But more importantly, I would never want to be a judge who heard divorces. Because being a judge in a divorce is a little bit like being a lifeguard in a cesspool. You ain't jumping in to get anybody. And that's kind of the way it is in divorce. Judges try to split the baby right down the middle, and they try to be fair to both parties. There are some judges who tend to favor the ladies. There are some judges who tend to favor the gentlemen. But almost all of them are put off by displays of emotion, by displays of anger, and that sort of thing. So it's important to recognize up front that in many respects, you need to suppress your emotions when you go into a divorce, and particularly when you prepare for a divorce. You will find all manner of well-meaning people who are also terribly misinformed who will offer you advice on how to prepare for a divorce. Among the things those people will tell you are you should immediately drain the bank accounts. Take all the money. That'll keep them from being able to pay an attorney's retainer and get you a tremendous advantage in the courtroom. They'll tell you, drain the entire savings account. Take that money away from him or take that money away from her. Get that money and secure it and then go hide it. Make sure it's dropped down a deep, dark hole that nobody can find so that you don't ever have to worry about having to give up what you've worked so hard for. I can't tell you how many times I heard that in the course of talking to people about this very subject. That is, without a doubt, the worst advice you can possibly get in preparing for divorce. One of the things that you need to do if indeed you decide that you want to live separately from your spouse and seek a divorce, is you should equitably divide all of the fungible assets. If you have a checking account that's joint, you take half the money. That's it. It doesn't matter if you contribute 70% and your wife contributes 30%, or if you contribute 60% and your husband contributes 40%. Take half. Because whatever comes into the marriage in most cases is sort of joint property, and judges don't like it when people go more than half. And so that's something to keep in mind. If you have to separate assets, separate them as equitably as possible. And if you have a low trust relationship with your soon-to-be ex-spouse, and you think that discussing this with them will cause them to go take the entire amount of the account, then I would suggest you can take half, set it aside, and then approach them and say, okay, look, I'm moving out and I split our assets right down the middle. There were $10,000 in the savings account, I left $5,000 there. There were $2,000 in the checking account, I took $1,000. I left $1,000 there. Everything is divided halfway. In that way, when you appear before the judge, you won't have to answer questions like, how did you think your wife was going to eat with no money in the checking account, and you took all the money out a day after her paycheck hit the account, and you think that that's fair? You don't want to have to answer those questions from a judge. When you go into court, you want to have clean hands. It is really important, particularly in a case that is heard by a judge. And I think in all but Texas, divorces are heard by judges. Juries don't get involved. As a result, a judge tends to get really annoyed when he has to be that lifeguard in the cesspool and jump in and save someone, meaning he has to order you to cough over money that you shouldn't have taken in the first place. The primary rule of litigation, and it applies to lawyers as well as their clients, is don't honk off the judge. You do not want to make the judge mad. You want to see the judge happy and smiling at all times, and he's not going to be happy and smiling if you have acted like a petulant 2-year-old and taken all of the money. So, again, for what it's worth, you should always try to equitably divide all of the assets. Now, if you have children, children are always the sort of the innocent bystanders in a divorce. And even children with good intellectual skills, good emotional intelligence, tend to feel like they are at least partially to blame for a divorce. They aren't. You know that. And probably intellectually they know that, but sometimes you can't help how you feel. The one absolutely certain way to really harm your relationship with your children is to get them involved as your cheerleader or make them hate the other spouse. And it's a destructive thing to do. It's destructive of the parent-child relationship on your part. It's also destructive of their relationship with the other spouse. And it will almost always come back to bite you in ways that you have absolutely no way to understand or anticipate up front. So the way to handle questions, why are you and mom getting a divorce, is just be honest. We've decided we need to live separately. We've decided this is best for everybody. And I'm not happy about it. I wish we didn't have to do this. But we are acting to make sure that you are going to be fine. You still have two parents. We both still love you. Your mom is still your mom. Your dad is still your dad. We love you. And that is not going to change. Our relationship is fractured. Mine with your mom, it's fractured. It's bad. There are issues on both sides. I think your mom blames me, and I think I blame her. But you know what? You don't have to blame anybody, because this is just something that happens. It happens to a lot of people, and it's regrettable, but it happens. So whatever else goes on, you don't worry a thing about how we feel about you, because we both love you more than you could possibly know. And if you do that, down the road, you will have a much better relationship with your children than you could possibly imagine. Now, you may wonder what happens when the other spouse doesn't play by this rule. And you just let it, you basically don't fight back. When you hear, mom says that you're ugly and you dress funny, you can just say, well, your mom has an opinion. It's not my opinion. And we don't need to discuss that. That's between her and I, and that doesn't concern you. I mean, really, let's talk about something that we both enjoy. Let's go skiing. Let's go to the park. Let's do whatever else we want to do. Distract and move along to some other topic. Because if you get into a tit for tat, oh, yeah, she thinks I'm ugly and dress funny? Well, her mom wore combat boots. All it does is drop you down to the third grade level, and you both wind up looking like a pair of idiots. Now, one of the best things that I've ever heard in terms of advice is you never get involved in an argument with an idiot, because somebody might come along and not be able to tell which one of you two is the idiot. When you get involved in this kind of thing, it always lowers you. So if you want to have a good relationship with your kids, don't do it. Instead, focus on having a good time with your children, focus on protecting them, focus on building them up, not tearing the other spouse down. It's good advice, and it works, and I can fully recommend it. Another piece of advice that I've heard people give, again, well-meaning, is you need to go out and you need to find the meanest, nastiest, most avaricious lawyer in the free world and hire that person, because he will beat the other lawyer senseless and you'll wind up getting a better deal. Nothing could be further from the truth. Aggressive lawyers tend to poison the atmosphere and make any kind of reasonable solution nearly impossible. What you really want is you want a lawyer who is a good negotiator, but who understands that the role of the negotiator is to care, but not too much. And when you hire a mean, nasty, basically a pugilistic sort of litigator to represent you in a divorce, all you do is add to the disharmony. You want somebody who can approach the lawyer on the other side and say, hey, look, how can we work this out? Let's split this stuff up, get these people free of one another, and take care of the kids. And usually, lawyers respond to that on the other side. I think that's a good thing. And the best divorce lawyers that I know are good deal makers and good communicators. Find somebody who's a good communicator, and if possible, get a referral from somebody who has used that lawyer and knows what kind of work they do. Preparing for the divorce is more important than going through the divorce. And that's because the first thing you have to do is come to the realization that you need to do the divorce. And the second thing you have to come to, and it's hard sometimes, is that you need to be fair. Because initially, your desire to harm the other person through this process will come back to bite you through your children and through your friends and associates who know both of you. And they are going to wonder why the person that they like and respect, you, is being such a jerk. So, again, you need to think long and hard about quelling the anger before you go into the process. I would recommend going to see a counselor or a therapist and just discussing with them, have maybe 1 or 2 visits with them, and go through your emotions and get some feedback and get some ideas about how to deal with the anger and the emotions that you are going to feel. That's good preventive work that will wind up serving you very nicely in the future. Well, that's what I have for you today. If you have any comments, any thoughts about why I might be wrong about any of this, please leave them in the comments down below or put them in the email. Thank you again for watching. If you have the opportunity today, do something nice. Yeah, maybe even for your ex-spouse. Do something nice for somebody. And catch me down here at the beach next time. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.